What's up, friends? Welcome to Leaders, Letters, and Legacy alongside Dr. Marianne Colley. I'm your co-host, Scott Fussell, and we are thrilled you decided to tap play and spend some time with us today. We'd love it if you would consider Leaders, Letters, and Legacy a verbal archive for many of the stories and the people who have shaped the fraternity sorority movement for the past 2+ centuries. It's time we shine a light on leaders. It's time we help them write a love letter about their letters. It's time we talk about the legacy we want to leave behind. It is time for another episode of Leaders, Letters, and Legacy. Let's go. Hey, what's up, everybody? So glad that you decided to tap play. Welcome to the latest chapter meeting. This is our post-episode recap of our conversation with our most recent guest, Heidi Guest of Tri Delta. She's just an extraordinary business leader and an extraordinary community servant. I know, Mac, one of the ways that you guys connected early on was through your work at St. Jude. Maybe talk a little bit about that and some of your takeaways from your experience working with Heidi and working with St. Jude. Let's go.
Yeah, I mean, I think, I heard Heidi speak at the St. Jude. It was our volunteer. I was volunteering for Tri Delta, even though I'm not a member. That's how I got involved with them. And Heidi was our guest, and I knew her background in the business, in the beauty industry, and there was just something about her. She's one of these people who walks the talk. She doesn't just talk the talk, right? I mean, she serves St. Jude, she serves Tri Delta, she serves the communities that she's engaged with. And, Heidi's background is helping folks find their strengths and their gifts and their talents. And Heidi did that at a C-suite level in the beauty industry. And if you listen to her podcast, you'll hear the story. I mean, women weren't in those spaces at that time. And Heidi was really helping to lift the beauty industry at Clinique and in Estee Lauder in a way that she was helping teams come to a place where they were leading with integrity. They were leading with this servant heart that you talk about. And so, I love, if you'll share a little bit, I loved when she talked about how I think Heidi was an influencer before that word became a word, right? It's not a buzz thing for Heidi. You feel it because when she talks to you, and I've known her for a long time, I just want to listen. I get lost in her example. Maybe that's it, right?
Yeah, well, there were a couple things that she said specifically as we were talking with her that really struck me. First off was how she identified beauty early in her life. Like when she was 3 years old, it was the first time she remembered identifying something as being beautiful.
Yep.
And what I loved is how she talked about it wasn't just externally that she was seeing beauty. She was seeing beauty internally as well, and not just with people, but with places. Just fascinating how she redefined and reimagined the word beauty and how she applied that word and that characteristic to so many different areas of life and in people. The other thing that she talked about, and you mentioned this earlier, was she focuses now on really helping people identify their strengths and help to live more effectively in who they are versus trying to determine what they are not and strengthen those areas. So it was when you talk about influencers, she knows that one of her strengths is she's able to influence. And so I love the story she shared with us when she was talking about when the leadership team at Estee Lauder or Clinique was together. They knew if they needed to pitch something to Mr. Lauder, that if it had any hope of gaining traction and winning him over, she was the one that had to pitch him. And nobody else was threatened by that. They all knew that, okay, my strength is creating the messaging. Heidi's strength is delivering the message and helping influence him and getting his buy-in to this direction we want to go for whatever the initiative was. So helping people identify what they are versus what they are not, and then trusting people and giving them opportunities to walk into those strengths, I thought was just fascinating. And the way she described how that played out in a corporate setting was just fascinating. So loved all of those examples that she shared and made it really easy to understand how, gosh, if we can just identify people's value and unleash them, this isn't rocket science, people. Like, you've got gifts, let's identify them, and then let's help you use them. period. And that's what she's spending her life now doing. It's amazing.
And what I love is that Heidi's able to look at and work with folks and say, okay, it's a collection of people. It's not,
Yeah.
I have it all. I don't have to have it all, because nor will I ever have it all. And I
And
love
that should take pressure off you. That should
absolutely.
totally take pressure off you.
Absolutely. And it gives you the ability to open your own perspective to say, where are those gifts and talents in this board that I've been assembled with, right? Where are my gifts and talents on this team that I've been a part of? And I think that we forget so often, I've been the leader of a group. You've been the leader of a group. We don't have to have all the answers, because if we try to, they're not going to be the right ones anyway. And then we become bigger than ourselves. What we need to realize is that the work we do is bigger than ourselves. I love it when students say, I was like, why did you join a sorority or fraternity? They'll be like, because I wanted to be a part of something bigger than myself. Awesome. Then don't try to make it something that it's not, because it's already bigger. And I think that's what Heidi was saying, joining Tri Delta, it was such a beautiful link for her because of the founders really looking at someone's inner beauty. He's been doing that since she's a little girl. And I mean, I love the way that she shared that story. And for those of you who haven't listened to her podcast, I hope you listen in sequence, listen to her, and then listen to us, because I think it will make sense. And then you can draw from this in your own life to say, what are my strengths? What are my abilities? What am I missing? And where can I go to help somebody help unleash that? Because once you do, it's pretty amazing. And
let's go.
Yeah, I love, and Heidi brings that to the conversation. And I think that her work with St. Jude, she's committed. She has some affinity because of a young man that she knows and some other folks. And Heidi's another one of those people in our lives that I believe when Heidi says she's going to show up for you, she's going to show up for you. I mean, she didn't second guess this thing we were calling, a podcast with this guy, Scott and Marianne. She came right in. And for those of you in the industry, especially, maybe you don't know Heidi, but in the Tri Delta world and in the beauty industry, if you've ever watched QVC, you might even recognize her for with Philosophy products. Heidi has had an impact, and I think the impact of being the influencer is what Heidi's special gift has been.
Yeah, one of my big takeaways from our time with her became very clear, and that was the fact that none of us know as much as all of us. And when I know what your strengths are, what your gifts are, it takes such incredible pressure off of me, because now I don't feel like I've got to be all things to all people. I don't have to know everything there is to know about delivering on this particular initiative. None of us are as smart as all of us. So I'm going to take your gifts. I'm going to take your gifts. I'm going to take your gifts, and I'm going to give you mine. And we're all going to move forward together. I found her to be extraordinary. I found her to be ridiculously interesting. She was a good example of one of those people that I'd never met before, and was just fascinated by her story and how she does what she does, and does it so generously and so thoughtfully. So just a brilliant conversation. What were any closing thoughts as we wrap up this chapter meeting?
I just think the word that continues and always has come to mind with me when it comes to Heidi is that she's an authentic leader.
Oh, I love it.
She could be very, if she wanted to be, right? She's been in some remarkable spaces, but she's authentic, and she truly cares, as I hope that we all do, about how do you bring out the best in others through the gifts that you've been given. So I was so appreciative that Heidi spent some time with us. I hope that some of our listeners can really go and listen and learn from her. And she's available to work with organizations and companies and whoever, and some coaching. So I hope that Heidi is someone that we've shared with the community of listeners that we have, and whose life as a sorority woman continues to impact others. So for me, that's what's it.
Absolutely. So, hey, thanks for tapping play on another episode. This has been the latest chapter meeting, and we're, again, so grateful you decided to spend a little time with us today. We'll see you next time. Take care, everyone. Today's show was hosted by Dr. Marianne Calais and Scott Pucell. For more information, please follow the show on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube. You can also follow Dr. Mack and Scott on social or on the web at mariannecale.com and scottbuselcoaching.com. Thanks again for tapping play and joining us for another episode of Leaders, Letters, and Legacy. This has been a Find Real People production.